Good day, everyone. I think please turn your mic on mute. We're waiting just for a couple of more people to join. We have more than 400 registrations, and I see already the numbers are rising. Welcome, everybody. Let's give everybody a couple of more seconds to join, and then we'll kick it off. Good. Let's get started. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. Thank you for joining us to this very important webinar and the celebration of the report launch. We have more than 400 people signed up to attend this session. My name is Katrin Lai. I'm the Managing Director of Fashion for Good. We are a global innovation platform, really working to scale sustainable innovations for the fashion industry. And I'm excited to share with you a bit more about the state of circular innovations in India, which is a report that we produced, Fashion for Good, together with the Circular Apparel Innovation Factory, which is launching today. So a big thank you, first of all, to the two teams that have compiled this work. And I think this is indeed a great example of building off each other's strengths to really shift the industry forward. To set the stage, let me say a little bit about why we embarked and undertook this work. First of all, we are mapping and scouting the innovation space on a global level, and scouting and screening all of those innovations, and that's more than 2,000 that we have scouted. We realized that quite a big number of those innovators is in India. So the first point really that led us to embark on this journey is that India really is an innovation hub, and it's worth diving more into that. Second, what is really interesting and really important also in this whole context is that India is having a dual role, both as a producer and a consumer country. So unlike many other countries that are more so consumer driven, here you're playing in both areas, both on the production side as well as on the consumption side. And exactly that leads us also to the third point, which is really interesting, because in the journey that India is on that journey that India is on, there is really an opportunity to now sidestep challenges that many of those consumer driven economies on the Western side are facing, and really propel forwards towards sustainability. So that's the third point. And the fourth point is the challenge that lies ahead of us on a global level for this 2 trillion euro fashion industry business is enormous. There was a couple of reports, and just recently a McKinsey report being launched that reiterates the importance, for instance, from a greenhouse gas emission perspective. 4% of greenhouse gas emissions come from the fashion industry, so there is a lot of work that we need to get done. And then the fifth point that I want to highlight is that all of those innovators that we have identified, they really provide solutions to address those big social and environmental challenges. They provide services, products, and also system level solutions that the big corporate players can invest in and eventually scale. So those are the 5 reasons for us to really embark on this journey. And if we look at the next page, this is just one highlight from the report. We've identified more than 300 innovators in India alone that are working on disruptive solutions across all of the supply chain steps. And on the next slide, you see that we use this supply chain logic, in fact, also to really structure the way we write about those innovations in the report. So here on this page, you see our global technology framework, which we use for scouting on a global level. And we use exactly that structure, which is, looking at the different supply chain steps from raw materials all the way through to end of use. And we look at those steps in depth with regards to the innovations, the opportunities, and that's exactly also the structure we use in this report. So there's a lot to read in this report, and you will hear all of the details later on in the from my co-speakers here today. But I want to close with 4 enablers that we've identified in this report. And those 4 points are, first of all, a sustained focus on research and development is really essential, specifically if you look at upstream innovations such as material innovation or dyeing and finishing innovation. Second, strong public-private engagement and also relevant policy incentives are needed to further strengthen local supply chains. If you think of closing the loop as an example, using recycled textiles as an input for new clothes. Third, investments is crucial, and you need to invest to build supply chain capabilities to eventually be able to innovate further and to scale. And last but not least, there is a consolidated effort also needed to really upskill workers across the supply chain to further drive adoption of those new innovations, but also to secure jobs in and across the supply chain. So I want to close with those 4 enablers and really highlighting that all of those enablers really will facilitate the transition to an industry that is more regenerative in nature, and that is obviously what we are here to do, what Circular Apparel Innovation Factory are here to do, the innovators that you will hear today, as well as our corporate partners. So, agenda for today on the next page. First of all, I will now hand off to my colleague from Circular Apparel Innovation Factory, Venkat, to share with you some more learnings and insights from the report. We will then have a discussion with Naresh from Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail to hear about retail and traceability. We have a spotlight then on one innovator, Textile Genesis. So Amit will share about what Textile Genesis is doing in that space. And we move on to Arvind Mills, to Abhishek, who will share raw materials and wet processing insights, and will close off with a respective innovator, again, wet processing by KP Cole. So you see the agenda reflects both corporate and industry perspectives, as well as the innovator and innovation perspective, which I think is a wonderful agenda that is ahead of you. And with that, thank you so much. Thanks again for joining. And with that, over to Venkat from the Circular Apparel Innovation Factory team.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And it was a lovely context setting. Let me start with congratulating both the teams, first of all, for such an amazing effort and a truly collaborative effort in that. Hello, everyone. My name is Venkat, and I have the privilege of leading the Circular Apparel Innovation Factory. As you know, we've set ourselves a very ambitious mission a couple of years back on building the ecosystem and the capabilities to make meaningful progress from the industry standpoint towards a circular economy. So what that means is that, you know, we're talking about innovations and innovators and the change makers today. And we're really focused on what kind of an environment or an ecosystem that we need to build, shape, and define that helps these innovations and innovators thrive. Now, while Catherine set the context on why we delved into the project to start with, it's absolutely undeniable the role and the strategic importance that India plays, not just from the global interlinkages across the value chain, not just in terms of you know, its role as a manufacturing hub, as a recycling hub, but also in terms of the large role we play as a consumption hub. Now, it's very well known and it's very well documented, the negative and the environmental and the social footprint that Catherine was talking about early on. But what we are attempting to do with this report and what this report aims to do is to shift the narrative away from challenges and problems to one that's focused on solutions. So while there is the report and you can deep dive into different elements of the report, which focuses on all the verticals across the value chain. What I would love to do is to touch upon some key learnings and insights from the report. To start with, if you focus on the need for feedstocks, that's absolutely primary for the industry. Now, we've seen a lot of movement in this space in India, but we haven't reached a meaningful scale in that aspect. And largely, if you see, one of the possible reasons is that a lot of the capabilities and capacities that we've built over the years is largely focused from a cotton economy standpoint. But if you look at alternative materials, then there is a whole lot of space and opportunity that's available for us in building those capabilities and capacities. So that's number one. Number two is, if you focus on wet processing as a space, then there are a lot of novel and disruptive technologies that are already emerging. But a lot of these are very focused on research institutions, perhaps largely which are government funded. So for them to be able to go from a lab environment to reach some kind of viable scale so that they become potential partners or attractive to collaborators, corporates, brands, retailers across the value chain, then there is a fair amount of investment in making sure that, like Catherine was alluding to it a little earlier, this whole aspect of public-private collaboration that could potentially happen to get them out of the research and lab environments to a scale in the mainstream industry. The third aspect, when you focus on the cut, make, and trim aspect of the value chain, you see a lot of technological innovations that are happening, but specifically in this part of the value chain, but also largely what is true of the industry, as you already know, is that we are a very labor-intensive process. So as you imagine, or as we collectively imagine the role that technology plays, it's, I think, very crucial for us to see how that interplays with the whole aspect of upskilling, reskilling, social aspect, the human aspects, the workers who are part of the process, and how their jobs or their work would look in an alternative economy that's driven by these innovations. The fourth aspect that I wanted to touch upon was when you consider the whole narrative around circular economy, one can't deny the significance of business models that are anchored in the circularity aspect. And we talk about circular business models. Now, if you see in the context of India, a lot of these are largely driven by perhaps the startups, the innovators, and the small and medium enterprises themselves. Now, if you really want to make meaningful progress, I'm sure you would agree that one of the things that we need to see that happen is to see the emergence or some meaningful progress being done through adoption by the corporates, brands, and retailers as well across the ecosystem. And finally, if you think about the environment that we are living in today, the significance of transparency, the significance of traceability across the value chain can never be undermined, right? Whether you look at it in terms of transparency for recycled material or newer feedstocks or any of those aspects, the importance of transparency couldn't be more, especially in the post-COVID environment where we are all collectively looking to build back a better industry and a better environment for all of us. So what you see on the next slide is you'll see at the bottom of the slide a link to where you can access the report. The report is very comprehensive. You can actually deep dive into the different verticals across the value chain and how the innovators, what kind of innovations are happening, and probably a highlight of some of the innovators who are playing some significant role across the value chain. Now, what I would love to do with that context is who better to speak about circular economy, the role that innovation could play. So if I could invite Dr. Naresh Tyagi. You already know him, he needs no introduction. As the Chief Sustainability Officer at Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail Limited, he's been at the forefront of driving the whole sustainability narrative, not just the narrative, but a lot of action on the ground from Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. ABFRL, as you probably already know, is perhaps one of the world's fewest organizations that are fully integrated, vertically integrated. Naresh Tyagi, in addition to the fact that he is on the chair of CAIF's Governance Council, also holds many significant roles across other ecosystem enablers and industry bodies, including Sustainable Apparel Coalition and Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So, Naresh, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Venkat, for your kind word and nice introduction. It's pleasure to be part of this launch. And first of all, let me congratulate for this report. It's great collaboration of CAIF and Fashion for Good. Congratulations to both team and happy to see that.
Thank you so much, Naresh. Very kind words. So what we would love to do, Naresh, is to have a conversation with you and get your insights. And what we would love to do is to focus on certain aspects of the value chain. And we would want to focus on the end of use, retail models, and perhaps even transparency. What I would love to start with is, look at the concept of end of use, right? So when you look at the lack of quality recycled materials stemming from both the limited technologies, the poor collections, management, supply chain systems, but that definitely emerges as a wide space of innovation in our report and obviously in all our conversations that we've had over the few years. My question to you is, how do you see ABFRL addressing its end of use? Because that's definitely a critical aspect of this whole conversation about making this transition towards a circular economy. Would love to start the conversation by understanding how ABFRL is addressing the end of use in the value chain.
Sure. I think a very tough question you have started. Let me try to answer it. Actually, end of use, if you see India, mostly product is used multiple times. But as a structure way of end of use, I think there is a lot of lacuna in terms of end-to-end understanding. So first of all, I would say that consumer awareness and brand and retail company to be engaging them in terms of end of use is still, I think, not in very structured way. Then second part which is more critical, is that how you handle reverse logistic and collection of old garment once it is used for full cycle. Then there is a lot of things related to upcycling, recycling, and rematerializing, which is still in early stage in terms of India. But end of use, I think one of the critical thing is that product use and durability. How long that product is used, how well it is used is one of the things, which I think in India, most of the brand and retail focus to give durability and longevity, as well as some sort of good care and handling system. Coming back to that, what you have asked for ABFRL, what are the area or how we are taking it into system? One is that we in company follow that LCA approach, life cycle approach.
Right.
It's cradle to grave or cradle to cradle approach. How you see that end to end life cycle of the product, and in that we have kind of initiated some of the things. I think it start as a mission, what we call is zero waste to landfill. We intend not to have any single gram of our waste going to landfill. And today, I think I'm happy to say that in real, we are zero waste to landfill for across all our operation. And in terms of getting consumer for more and more end of use and more aligned to upcycling and recycling, we created awareness. Though India is still it is early stage, but we created program called Take Back program, and program name was Share Happiness. It is still one of the successful program in Peter England brand,
Right.
where we encourage consumer to bring back their old cloth. And idea was to create awareness that how that cloth should be used and how we care for end of use and what happened after that. And we gave them incentive actually to buy fresh garment if they are bringing old cloth. Very successful pilot where we tie up with that one of the NGO called Gunj to handle our reverse logistic and repurpose part. So all that collection was done by us, and then we segregated it and repurposed it for upcycling and recycling, and some sort of even that garment was given for charity. So that is one. And then second thing which we are working very hard is that packaging and plastic recycling, because a lot of component goes with garment. End of use, I would say that it is early start, but in India, I think we are trying to create awareness, and hopefully that we will get a consumer and end user support in that to have that whole system.
Right. No, thank you so much for that, Naresh. I don't think it was a difficult question. For somebody who's been in the space for the longest time, it's probably one of the easiest questions that you always had to front. So we talk about end of use, and you make some very good points. Now, when we think about the end of use, and obviously one of the things that's really come up in a lot of our conversations, Naresh, is this aspect about traceability. Now, especially in the context of the COVID environment and the challenges that we all had to collectively face as an industry over the last 8-9 months, what I wanted to do is to switch to traceability. Now, as you already know, and something that we've covered in the report as well, is that we've seen a lot of innovation that's really coming up from the solution side of it, right? And we've generally seen, and I'm making a blanket statement, but we've generally seen very few takers on the buying side, which is largely the corporates, the brands, and the retailers who could potentially collaborate with these innovators and the solution providers. So my question is really in two parts, and I'm happy to repeat the second part, but if you could start with getting your views on what do you think is the industry's readiness as far as complete traceability is concerned?
Very good question. And as usual, it is not easy question, difficult to answer. Traceability, I think if you see that fashion and retail industry,
right?
We are laggard in terms of technology adoption. All industry, I'm saying, because nature of industry is more labor intensive, and technology adoption is not end to end, it is in fragmented part. You will find good use of technology in retail side, and maybe some part of textile. But whole end to end supply chain, if you see, very rare you find that technology enabling for traceability. Right. It's one of the very critical and challenging aspect, how you get that end-to-end product traceability using technology.
Right.
In that, I think with COVID, before COVID, I think as I mentioned, those some part of value chain, technology is happening either in part of it or maybe some geography or some of the outlier large corporate or big company are doing it. But whole industry, I think that nature of industry is more SME. A lot of garmenter who is not able to get technology enabling, how to
right.
bring them into ecosystem, how to convince them to use technology for traceability. It is challenging, but I think in post-COVID scenario, it has become more and more important and critical because you are not in office, you are not in factory.
Right.
How you get that full-fledged digital version using technology for end-to-end traceability. So in my opinion, I think that COVID scenario, post-COVID scenario, I would say, it is going to have more acceleration in terms of technology enabling. We as a company, I think, always try to use technology. We have that product lifecycle management, and the whole our sample making is now done virtually. But supply chain side, that getting each and every partner into that from raw material to converter to warehousing, I think this is one area where it is very, very crucial for us to get supply chain traceability and transparency both.
Right.
Because once you want that the transparency, you have to enable it for product traceability.
Right.
I think it is one of the early stage, uh, particularly in Asian geography.
Sure.
But we are very sure that time is not far when consumer will start asking for product labeling and product traceability, because some of the early thing like uh, date of manufacturing, origin of manufacturing, who has made it is already there. But how it is made, how it is has reached to that in entire supply chain in hand of consumer and retailer, I think that will come now maybe in year or two much faster. But it has not seen adoption in last 1 decade.
Right.
I guess it will come much faster in 2-3 years next.
Perfect. No, thank you so much, Naresh. And I think what was very pleasant to hear is the emphasis that you placed on the fact that technology, while it's a great enabler, I think what's also critical for us to be able to make, specifically in the context of traceability, what's also important for us when we are looking to make meaningful progress is to shaping that ecosystem and creating that environment in which these technologies and these innovations can actually thrive as well. So thank you so much for that, Naresh. I see that we're shooting a little ahead of time. So Priyanka, what I would do is, would we have time for one more question for Dr. Naresh, or what would you suggest?
I would suggest that we move on now and keep the questions for the end. Otherwise, we will overshoot.
That sounds good. Naresh, as always, a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for making time again.
Thank you very much. And just last comment, I think post-COVID that whole concept of doing more and better with less is I'm seeing emerging in India. So I think that sustainable consumption is going to be, I think, bigger and bigger talk, and people will be compelled to do it more.
Absolutely. Very valid point, Naresh. Thank you so much for that.
Wonderful. So with that said, Venkat, as a continuation of this conversation, I want to call upon Amit from Textile Genesis as a quick innovator spotlight to talk about the technology.
Thanks, Priyanka.
Yes, thanks, Priyanka. I'm not able to turn on the video, but that's okay. Yeah. So very brief. Great. Yeah. So I'm the start my video. Now it works. Yeah. So I'm the CEO and founder of Textile Genesis. We have our technology and development center in India, Bangalore, with our commercial center in Hong Kong, and recently also have presence in London. And it's fantastic. Again, thanks, Priyanka, Catherine, for inviting us for this innovation spotlight. In the next, let's say 8 to 9 minutes, I would like to focus on 3 main questions and answers to that questions. First, why traceability and transparency is such a major issue in the textile and the fashion industry. Second, how are we trying to address that challenge? And third, what have we done practically in the field, along with the brands, with the supply chain players, with the fiber producers, to kind of move the needle and take this discussion towards practical implementation of solutions, right? So let me start. If you move on, yeah, I think let's skip this just to be, yeah. So one of the key things when you look at from the, let's say, 20,000 feet level is the difference in the fashion and textile industry versus consumer electronics and automotive. The market share of top 10 brands in other industries like electronics or automotive is 80 to 90%. Whereas in the fashion industry, top 10 brands have less than 10% market share. And what's even more surprising, that market share is actually declining because the market is continuously not consolidating, but getting even more fragmented. Now, why is it important? It's important because the level of fragmentation in an industry drives the level of lack of transparency, lack of opaqueness. Because the industry is so fragmented, you have thousands and thousands of players, not only at the level of brand, but across the entire supply chain. And what that directly leads to, if we move on, is to the 95% traceability gap. What do we mean by that? The top 100 fashion brands have set 100% sustainable and traceable fibers target in the next 5 to 7 years. You can pick any brand, be it H&M, Inditex, Nike, Adidas, all have set very, very commendable objectives around sustainable traceable fibers, which is directly leading to quite some expansion in the sustainable textiles market, which we think could triple in the coming 5 to 7 years. However, 95% of the fashion industry has limited to no visibility across the garment value chain. So all the way from tier 1 supplier back to tier 5 or tier 6, where the fiber is manufactured, where a lot of sustainability credentials around organic cotton, around recycled polyester, around man-made cellulosic fibers are created. And this fundamental gap that we see in terms of ambition of the industry versus lack of technology, systems, and processes in place to deliver on that vision is essentially what we are trying to solve at Textile Genesis. Then how do we solve that challenge? We solve that challenge through addressing, through focusing on these 3 core innovations. First, fiber coins technology, which essentially creates digital tokens in direct relation to the physical volume of fiber by a sustainable producer. So our platform allows any sustainable fiber producer to tokenize their physical volume of fiber through tokens at the point of origin to convert the 1 kg of fiber into 1 digital token. It can go up to 1 gram of fiber. And those tokens becomes basically a tamper-proof digital chain of custody across entire value chain. So you're almost creating a digital twin of the physical product, and that digital fingerprint cannot be counterfeited, cannot be tampered with, eliminating the need for PDF and paper-based traceability methods, which are very common. The second core innovation we have done is to create a language, a simplified language for players to communicate with each other. And third is to be able to incorporate, forensic verification of the textile sample along with the digital traceability. So then if we move on, in terms of where have we practically tested and deployed our platform solution over the last 1 year, we have been working with 6 leading brands in 10 major textile producing countries in India and Bangladesh, Vietnam, China, all the way to Turkey, Tunisia, Portugal, testing the technology on the field with across the textile value chain for 4 major sustainable fibers. And now what we're doing is working very closely with Fashion for Good and with Textile Exchange. We're trying to expand the base and the scale to other man-made cellulosic players, to looking at GRS, recycled polyester responsible wool for Textile Exchange, to also drive an electronic chain of custody. With Lensing and with Schneider Group, beginning next month, we would be then rolling out the platform as a commercial technology that's available for the entire value chain to create traceability. And then if we move, this is essentially a cloud-based platform. So anyone who has access to a browser and internet connection can start using the system. Now this goes back to what Naresh was just pointing out earlier. The technology hurdle to use the system must be quite low for a spinner or a fabric mill or a garment maker to use the platform. So we have significantly reduced the hurdle rate by offering the solution on a cloud. Very simple, so they don't have to do any technology investment. There is no technology hurdle. And also through data upload functionality or API integration, they can directly either integrate with their ERP system or actually share the data in a standardized manner across the value chain. And finally, if we then move on, we are now rolling out platform globally from November onwards. Our objective is to sign up 1,000 plus suppliers across the textile value chain over the next 1 year. The platform is available in 3 different languages: English, simplified Chinese, and Turkish, because of the very specific language specific support that's required on those in these major textile producing countries. We have largely, I would say, eliminated technology risk over the last 1 year by doing trials with in these major textile producing countries, working with leading global brands. And essentially, we are now driving broad industry-wide engagement, working very closely with Fashion for Good. Also, our partnership with Textile Exchange allows us to create that scale and impact in the industry. And in terms of business model, we have a very simple business model that we offer to majority of our customers, which is a fixed annual subscription fee. It's almost like a Netflix model, right? So we want to incentivize the usage so that the suppliers and the players who are using, they should not feel penalized. The more they do on traceability on our system, the less the cost becomes per kg or per unit, because it's actually a fixed annual subscription model. So with that, Priyanka, I hope I was within time, and I would like to pass it on back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. I think that was super insightful. It's also very exciting to see so many brands and manufacturers already in India itself, testing and piloting and implementing these solutions. So yeah, with that, moving on to the second section. Hi, everyone. I'm Priyanka from Fashion for Good. I lead the South Asia region. In the next section, so far, we've kind of heard from one of the largest retailers in India on insights around end of use, circular business model, and traceability. For the next section, I would like to call upon Abhishek Bansal, who is the head of sustainability for Arvind Mills, one of the leading most sustainable and innovative manufacturers in the industry, not just in India, but also across the world. Abhishek, if you could join me here.
Thanks, Priyanka, for the kind introduction. And I would first of all like to congratulate Fashion for Good and CAIF for putting together this report and making today's event possible. And we certainly see this as a valuable resource, not only for people in an industry in India, but more globally.
Thank you so much. And yeah, that is pretty much the intention. So I think you summarized it pretty well. So Abhishek, you're part of Arvind Mills, which is not just a leader in this space particularly. You have also done so much work with a lot of innovations that exist. And this report pretty much summarizes all the innovators that we met in the region and where we see gaps. So particularly for today's discussion, since we have very little time, I think I'd like to focus on some of the insights we've gotten out of raw materials, wet processing, and cut, make, trim. That itself is a lot to cover, but hopefully I'll get through a few questions, maybe not deep dive too much into everything, but maybe an overview of your views on each of these sections. So to start with, going into feedstocks, something that we discovered through all of our research over the last 2 years almost being in India is that there is definitely a need for new feedstocks, and almost all of the manufacturers and retailers are recognizing that the dependency on existing cotton and polyester kind of needs to be replaced and newer feedstocks need to be created. So what we discovered is that we see a lot of innovation happening in the raw material space. A lot of this alternate material can come from regenerated or recycled, but I think from your point of view, as someone who's actually tested and tried out quite a few of these technologies, I think I would love to hear your experience on what is happening in the new feedstock space in India and where you can see scale coming into this space. Like, do you see any of the technologies actually reaching any sort of scale?
Sure. Thanks, Priyanka. I think that's a very pertinent question. And when it comes to feedstock, what we see essentially three things that are happening. First is, of course, feedstocks like cotton and polyester are not going away anywhere. So there's a lot of focus on making these more sustainable, where how you grow cotton more sustainably, how you are able to monitor, how you are able to shift to better ways of farming, and similarly for polyester as well. So that is, and that we won't go into much details, but we see a few innovators working in that space as well. Second is the recycling space, where again in last 5 or 6 years we have seen tremendous work and opportunity, which is there on scale up of recycled materials. And initially, especially for cellulosic, it started in a more crude manner where you shred the garments and reuse it. But we see a lot of technologies now emerging, and for us to be able to do it at scale. And even on polyester, the narrative is moving from bottle-led recycling to more textile-to-textile recycling. So we hope to onboard some of these at a larger scale in near future. And third space is, of course, the alternate or new material space, which is again very exciting and also challenging at the same time, where we've seen and piloted with the banana fiber, with the fiber from hemp grown and processed in India, and also with the fibers like nettle, which have existed for long from the Himalayas, but are being used more and more. In the past, we worked with jute and bamboo as well. And I think all of these have significant potential to scale in India. And India being agriculture economy, some of these feedstocks are readily available. The key challenge there for us is to find out methods of processing it more sustainably. And wherever we have new innovators, they are adopting more sustainable conversion processes of these feedstocks into readily usable textile fibers. And I think if we ensure that and build a value chain or a supply chain for these fibers, we see tremendous potential in these and times to come for building a further scale. And of course, one more I missed could be K-pop, which is again also an age-old fiber, but not being used widely right now. But there's again potential to scale.
Thank you. I think you sort of covered my follow-up question already, which was around the challenges. So thank you for that. In the interest of time, then I'll quickly move to wet processing. What we've discovered is that there is a lot of innovation that's happening in wet processing in India. We're seeing waterless dyeings, we're seeing microbial dyeing, but a lot of these, or almost all of these technologies that we've discovered or innovations around wet processing seems to be more lab scale. And as someone who's interacted with many such innovations, also tested and piloted, I think what we'd like to understand from you is, what do you think is the opportunity to scale such innovations? Do you see them actually as a future of wet processing, which is actually creating a complete disruption in the dyeing space? So I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, fully agree, Priyanka. I think textile processing is going to change so much in next 5 years, which we've not seen maybe in last 20 or 30 years. We are looking at fundamentally different ways to dye and process fabrics and yarns. And unfortunately, historically, we have also seen that in India, we undersell our innovations, and we are not quite up to the mark when it comes to scaling these and commercializing these innovations. And consequently, we've also seen like most of the traditional textile machinery, wet processing machinery comes from Europe and now more and more from China. So there's a huge potential to build a more local scale up of innovation that we see right now at pilot scale through some of the Fashion for Good South Asia innovators as well as otherwise. So that gap between a technology which is developed at lab scale and to commercialize it, I think that's where our role also lies. So we are definitely, as Arvind, would like to support disproportionately more the innovations from India. And I think reason for whole South Asia program of Fashion for Good is also to promote local innovations in the region. And dyeing is the immediate space where we see a lot of opportunity for waterless dyeing, for microbial dyeing, in the medium to short term basis.
That's interesting. So in your opinion, this could really be the future of the industry. Could you quickly highlight maybe some of the, since you mentioned manufacturers like Arvind need to play a role in actually helping them scale as well. What, in your opinion, could be a few other enablers that will help scale up these lab scale technologies all the way to a commercialized technology which you can use?
I think we see a lot of interest from government bodies also now with the setup of BIREC and several other funds that are helping innovators grow, which we've never seen in the past. And I think second biggest factor is also interest from the value chain. So there's tremendous interest from both brands and manufacturers to adopt these technologies. 5 or 10 years back, nobody would take the risk of investing into a technology which is not already tried, tested, and scaled as a manufacturer. But now there's more and more willingness to take these bold steps. And an example, not particularly from India, of what we have done for waterless dyeing of denim with Indigo Mill Designs, a global partner of Fashion for Good. It was indeed the first machine of its scale where a significant amount of investment was required, and we did face difficulty and challenges in commercializing that. But now we see it working extremely well over last many years of efforts and work, and tremendously lower water and chemical consumption and energy consumption due to this. So I think industry as such is more ready to support and adopt these innovations because we see an end-to-end interest from all value chain partners in bringing something like this to life.
Interesting. I think what I hear from you is that investors, particularly government bodies, BIRAC-like organizations, manufacturers, innovators, almost all need to come together to actually help scale some of these lab-scale technologies. I think that quite summarizes what we have found in the region as well, that some of these actors need to start working together. So I think it also helps us give the next steps to where the industry is going, particularly with this. Since you're a little out of time, Abhishek, I will close this session here, and then hopefully you'll be around for Q&A after as well. And with that, I would like to call upon KB Coles, who's our wet processing innovator, to talk about their dyeing technology. Vaishali, Arjun, can I have one of you? Yeah.
Start my video now.
Ready when you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. I'm Vaishali. I'm the founder of KB Core Sciences.
And hi, I'm Arjun, the co-founder at KB Core Sciences.
So we are a young startup based in Pune, India. And we are trying to color the world in a different way. Next slide. So giving you the brief overview of the company, our company was incorporated in January 2018 with the help of BIRAC grant, Government of India. And we have established our R&D unit in Venture Center, Bioincubator, which is located in Pune. And our company focus area mainly includes natural pigments and their application in various fields like textile, cosmetics, and paints. So we are fortunate enough to receive business development support from Chirate Ventures, BIRAC, Venture Center Pune, Axelor, FICCI, and Derby Foundation. Next slide, please. So why dyeing is such a burning issue today? If we talk about the synthetic or chemical colors which are majorly used in dyeing of textiles, they come from petroleum resources, which is a non-renewable resource. and they are known to be toxic as well as carcinogenic to humans. Hence, stringent regulations are coming up which are banning certain colors. So the only alternative at this, we should use natural colors, either from flowers or plants, but they are not easy. When you talk about flower colors, they are not sustainable because they require large land to grow. Their reproducibility of shade is an issue when you talk about vegetable dyes, and we all know they grow in a particular season or geographical conditions. And also the major drawback of natural colors is they have very low yield and hence they are not sustainable. So next slide, please. So what Chemicals is offering? Chemicals is offering a sustainable solution. We are producing natural colors from small living organisms. Here you can see on the left hand side, these are we are exploring the rich Indian biodiversity, screening out many microorganisms, especially the bacteria, the safe bacteria. And once we screen our bacteria, our choice of bacteria from various soil, air and water samples, we develop their process, the second image which is visible, and we check whether this is safe for use or not. Once we are thorough with that, we move to the pilot scale up. On the right hand side, you can see the pictures of our fermenter. This technology can be grown up to like from 1,000 liters and above, depending upon the bioreactor we are using. So it's a matter of a scale up. And would like to add one more thing. These colors take 24 to 36 hours for their growth. And so at present, chemicals having multiple shades like red, orange, yellow, blue and white. White is in a very early stage phase. So we have just not developed these colors, but we have also shown its application in textile. Next slide, please. So this is the one of the application in textiles. Here on the left hand side, you can see the dye uptake for our colors. The left hand side is the original dye solution and the right hand side beaker is after dyeing solution. And the fabric which we have dyed is cotton poplin fabric. And here I would like to mention that the dye uptake with these colors is more than 95%, and we are not using any fixative agent in this, which is a very promising solution, because when you talk about natural colors like vegetable dyes, the dye uptake is very less, and also with compared to synthetic colors, to achieve this kind of dye uptake is little bit tricky. And on the right hand side, we have shown just the same fabric after the 10 washes. And just not we are focusing on cotton, we are also developing various applications on fabrics like cotton, linen, wool, silk, nylon and various other fabric with our colors. Next slide, please. So what lies ahead for us? We have validated our technology for textiles from two of the companies which are situated in Tamil Nadu, India, which is Natural Dye House and the other is Colors of Nature. Both works for natural colors. And we are also having pilot coming up in next month with the leading manufacturers. And also we are launching a collaboration with a leading luxury brand in Europe by January 2021. Next slide, please. So thank you. I hope Priyanka I covered in time. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Vaishali. So we are a few minutes over time. So we still have about 6 minutes for question and answers left. I have a couple of questions already coming in here. And if I can have Catherine, Venkat, Abhishek and Naresh to basically put your cameras on. Perfect. So the first question is from Dr. Preeti Kaur Sachdeva, who is asking as to how is the collaboration between educational institutions and industry possible to drive sustainability? It's a very interesting question because a lot of our insights from the region actually talks about technologies being in lab scales in universities. So whoever wants to take this up first.
Maybe I can come in, Priyanka. So traditionally, we have worked more with the Textile Research Institute. So like Atira in Ahmedabad, Bitra in Mumbai, and Southern and Northern Textile Research Institutes as well. But yeah, same can be done more widely with other educational institutions. And what we have done is like cross research programs with these institutes, where we define a particular area of interest for us and also for the institute, and we work together along with our technical experts and with the institute to basically develop or look at those research ideas and help with any kind of testing, uptake, providing our infrastructure or using institute's infrastructure to see if the idea could be scaled up further and how it works. So it's we're very open to working with institutes in general.
Yeah, I'm happy to also add some thoughts. First of all, I think that's a great question and very timely. From our perspective, there are two key dimensions where we work with educational institutes, universities. One is what Abhishek also highlighted, more the science side, so material science, chemistry departments, really the R&D teams that are working on potentially creating new innovations that eventually also could, feed into our accelerator programs, our scaling programs, etc., and connect those with our corporate partners, with investors. So that's one dimension where we have a close eye on what's going on and help wherever we also can with sharing knowledge. The report today that is being launched, I think, is a very useful dimension, but there's more research that we've published in the past also in terms of, what's the innovation cycle in the fashion industry, what are supply chain dynamics, all those information pieces are of relevance, I think, for those type of solutions coming out of universities. The second dimension, which I think is also really important, is the educational efforts around design, fashion design, those types of outreach. And through our Fashion for Good experience, the museum where we also really, invite a lot of universities, fashion design students and technology students to, maybe come in and participate in a digital tour to learn about, the sustainability efforts and the innovations in the fashion industry more broadly. So that is another way of engaging, even, if you're in different parts of the world, to join for a digital tour and experience what we're doing through the Fashion for Good experience.
Yep. If I may offer another lens, and I think that's the beauty of it, right? For each of the questions between Naresh, Abhishek, Catherine, and myself, we can probably offer very different lenses on the same question. If I may very quickly add, so there are two things that we need to do, right? So we are trying to create that ecosystem and the capabilities across at the ecosystem level and plug the gaps at the ecosystem level. The second thing that we recognize is the opportunity and the merit for building capacities and capabilities at individual organizations and institutions. So one of the things that we do is to design bespoke, as well as in collaboration with a lot of our strategic partners, investor readiness programs, boot camps, mentoring programs. And that's largely coming from our lineage, where we say that, if you want to make impact at scale, that true change or meaningful progress happens at the convergence of access to capital, access to knowledge, and access to networks. So a lot of the work that we do at CAIF is anchored in that philosophy. So without getting into too much of detail, because we have very little time left, would love to have this conversation, perhaps follow up on this and see how we can work on that front. We do have a couple of ongoing conversations where we're looking at solutions that have been bred in a research environment or a lab environment. And we're looking to see how we can possibly offer pathways for scalability for the solution. So happy to take this conversation offline as well.
Wonderful. Thank you everyone for the insights. sadly, I think we're out of time, and I know people will start dropping off soon, so I don't want to extend it any further. If we could take maybe 1 minute or 30 seconds each to just get a final word from each of you guys. Catherine, Venkat, Abhishek, Naresh, if you can all just give us your parting thoughts. For the rest of the questions, thank you so much. We will try our level best to get it answered over email or in a blog later. So, Catherine, would you like to begin?
Well, just the opportunity that we've identified in this report. India is in an excellent position to really capture all of those opportunities that arise from those impact-driven innovations and can really transform in a unique way. So if all players come together to really grasp this opportunity, manufacturers, innovators, investors, and policymakers, I think there is a really amazing opportunity that lies ahead.
Yeah, I will take that 30 seconds. I think that collaboration is the key for making change, because change always comes with a lot of innovation. And particularly in India, I think that to transit from that traditional way to that sustainable consumption or circular, I think a lot of ecosystem is required. It cannot be done by one company or one person. So how you build collaboration, how you build ecosystem, people to collaborate from different streams, from R&D to startup to industry to policymaker to even issue is very, very important. And I think Fashion for Good and CAIF is going to make that ecosystem and capacity for country and geography. I welcome everyone to participate and come and collaborate to make that change happen.
Thank you, Naresh. Abhishek, would you like to go ahead, please?
I maybe just like to reiterate what I said. I think there is great appetite in the industry right now, and hopefully will continue to stay in future to change and to change for good. So I think we should all build up on this as sustainability and innovation professionals to bring about change at a rapid pace till the time there is willingness among all of us and our peers to see this change happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Well, I have 2 points, but I think before that, first of all, again, a massive effort from both the teams and a truly collaborative effort. So thank you to both the teams for putting in this work. The first point is, and I think I'd like to echo what Naresh was alluding to, which is, if you think about the fact that globally, the efforts around circular economy, sustainability, green economy, all these concepts, they've been going on for a very, very long time. And if you think about in today's world, as we sit today, and as we all think of reimagining ways in which we build a better industry and a better world around us in a post-COVID environment, we've got to recognize the fact that there's no single organization which has the resources or the incentive or the motivation to make that progress happen by its own. So if you want to make progress, if you want to make meaningful progress, then it's going to take effort from all of us, not just on this call, but even beyond everyone in the ecosystem to come together. So we got to think of ways to collaborate. Second is, as we think about reimagining and rethinking business models and the way we work and the way we do business, or what our businesses and work should look like, or what values we use to drive our work, we've got to also think about the fact that perhaps instead of thinking of big, bold moves, when we think about creating an environment for these innovations to become scalable, when we think of environments that we can create for these unusual alliances and collaborations to happen, perhaps a smart way is to think about small experiments that we can do to test the earlier hypothesis, because it's only through collaboration and those early experiments that the foundation for the scaling to happen actually gets established. So thank you so much for everyone who has joined us. Thank you for giving us your time. Priyanka, over to you.
Thank you so much. I think Venkat already summarized it all. As a last note, we will be sending in an email tomorrow or later today the report to all of you. All the feedback is more than welcome. Questions on it are also more than welcome. Please feel free to reach out to us for that. The report is for the industry, and we want the industry to be able to interact with it, as well as come back to us with questions as well as feedback. So thank you for that. As for the questions still on the chat, I think there are a lot of questions, particularly for Textile Genesis and KV Coles, and we'll make an effort to answer that as well as make the connections wherever possible. Thank you everyone for joining in.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.